Welcome to The Garden Gate, a podcast where we talk to professionals across many fields who work directly and indirectly with plants and our natural world.
We are students at American University in Washington, D.C., and interns at Smithsonian Gardens. We have created this project with the hopes of inspiring a new generation to make sustainable and meaningful change in our world.
I'm Kira Burba.
And I am Caroline MacDonald.
And this week, we're talking with Zannah Porter about gardening and community. Zannah works at Green City Growers in Boston, Massachusetts as their Director of Operations.
Good morning.
Good morning, Zannah. It's great to have you today.
So excited to talk to you today.
It's great to be here today. I'm also really excited to talk to you.
Thanks. So can you tell us what you do today and how you got there?
Sure. I am the Director of Operations at Green City Growers. Green City Growers is an urban farming company based in Somerville, Massachusetts. We've got projects across the Northeast. As the Director of Operations, I oversee both our installations as well as all of our horticultural aspects of our company. So by installations, I mean the design and building of raised bed gardens, be those on rooftops or on the grounds, or also in bed or in ground gardens, as well as in ground farms. And on the horticultural side of things, that means I oversee all of the planning and crop production, as well as the growing of all our vegetable crops through managing all of our farmers. So I have a wide breadth of responsibilities, and it's something that I really, really enjoy, getting to see our gardens grow from just, something in somebody's imagination all the way through to harvesting tomatoes and eggplants and educating folks on how to grow their own, as well as, consuming those amazing, healthy, delicious crops.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Do you have a favorite crop that you like to grow?
Oh, there's so many. I love them all. One that I find just always breathtaking is the carrot, which maybe sounds like a simple plant, but they're kind of difficult to grow. They're a little bit finicky, and they're just a hidden treasure underneath the soil. You can't really tell what's going on until you harvest that carrot. And I very much enjoy harvesting carrots with folks. Watching somebody harvest a carrot and have their breath taken away when it like pops out of the ground and they see it for the first time, and it's like, wow, that's incredible. It's just very it's just very profound and yet simple. And so, yeah, I would say I love growing carrots. I like anything that's a little bit tricky. That may tell you some things about my personality, but at the end of the day, I really enjoy all vegetables, and I enjoy eating them and sharing that with other folks.
No, yeah, totally. I remember in high school, we had just built a new community garden on campus, and my environmental science class would always go to tend to it senior year. This is 17, 18-year-olds, and they were just completely amazed when they first harvested a vegetable. And it was just such an exciting thing to experience for the first time. No matter how old you are, I feel like it's such a fun thing if you've never done it before.
That's so wonderful. One of the schools that I worked at in undergrad, we had a community garden outside. It was next to the playground, and the students, about once a month, each classroom once a month, got to go and harvest whatever was there, or maybe planting was needed or weeding, and we just followed the seasons. And I was working with first graders, and a lot of them had never, pulled out a vegetable from the ground before, and I understand where you're coming from, where it is such a magical thing seeing these little first graders pull out we did radishes, and they were like, whoa, what is that? And then we cooked with them, and it was just so much fun, and gardening can be so magical.
Yeah, for sure. How long have you been at Green City Growers, and how did you end up there?
Sure. I've been with Green City Growers for about 3.5 years, And prior to joining the team here, I was actually an organic production farmer. So I managed a few diversified vegetable farms in the greater Boston area. And I did that for several years. And I got into farming um, in a way that I very much appreciate. I started from the ground up, quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
My background is in outdoor leadership. Um, and I've done a fair amount of environmental education as well. And I moved to the Boston area about 12 years ago. And I was interested in getting involved with farm-based education. And so I started working at a local nonprofit farm, actually on the field crew. So working in the fields, harvesting, and because that was a way to get in the door. And I absolutely fell in love with the work, and I absolutely fell in love with just the challenge, the long days and the hard work and the constant problem solving and the putting the puzzles together. And I have a background also working with, I'm pretty mechanical, so like working with machinery and on mid-scale organic farms around here, you do utilize tractors and tractor implements, and I really enjoyed that. And I found in farming, it really tapped into a lot of my interests. I'm a very physical person and need to keep moving. And also, like I've touched on already, the problem solving. Every day is different. The weather is different. The conditions are different. The soil behaves differently in different fields or different parts of fields. There's a myriad of plant families and varieties within those families that we grow, and they behave differently. And there's pests and disease, and there's just so many factors to deal with. And that can be, I'm not going to say that when I first started farming, I was like, I love the challenge. This is amazing. No, I was like, why can't there be something stable? Why can't there be something why aren't there, these constants? And it took time and practice and like learning from my mentors that there is consistency. The timeline is different. And also like, I'm not in charge of the timeline in many ways. There's a lot that's out of our hands when we're dealing with nature, and there is so much planning that goes into crop production and plant production, and you really do. You think about all the factors. You take in all of the information. You do your soil tests. You make a crop plan. You grow a buffer. There's all of these safety checks that we put into place, but in the end, like, it might be a drought year, it might be a flood year, there might be a new disease, there might be a new pest that comes in, and there's that day-to-day like dealing with that. And I think there's a level of resiliency that folks who grow plants long-term, farm long-term, either build or just inherently have in order to succeed in this field. Because I've watched a lot. I've been in it long enough to watch a number of people enter the field and be really excited and get like totally burnt out because of these factors. But it's certainly not for everyone. But it's really.
So my first question is talking about like the resiliency that a lot of people have, like as the nature of this work. Do you think that resiliency is something that like you've built over time, or did you already have that like starting out? Did you know going into this work that there would be some level of like uncertainty?
I would say both. I think I like have some resiliency, just the nature of me as a person. I have some resiliency, but it's a muscle I've had to exercise in farming, in terms of like building up, like over time, like I've built up my strength and I've become more resilient, and I've learned tools and skills, and built a network of other professionals and friends who help with dealing with things and being more resilient. Mm-hmm. And there's here in New England, here in Eastern Massachusetts at least, we have a really strong local farming community, which I tapped into really early on. And the amount of support that I've found from that community over the years, and from what I've heard, it's different in different regions, but there has been a lot of collaboration. And I touched on it a little bit earlier, but like I've had a number of just amazing mentors over the years here. And there have been, when I first started farming here, there were a number of like strong female farm managers and queer farm managers who really sort of blazed the trails for me, and to, they opened the door and they held the door open for a number of folks like myself to grow in this industry. And, I think when you stay in a place long enough, I've been here for 12 years now, like you really like put down roots and build community. And I don't know, Boston's a pretty transient area, but I think in terms of culture of like collaboration and of a commitment to being available and helping folks out.
Yeah, so I grew up in Eastern Massachusetts, pretty close to Boston, like 20 minutes south. And my hometown is definitely not rural, but it does have like a really high percentage of just like small family farms. A lot of them like might not still be farms, but it's a lot of like converted farmland. But there's still definitely a lot of like generation old family farms that are still operating. Like I know there's a flower farm down the street from me that people go and get like bouquets of flowers from. And there's still a dairy farm that actually still provides a lot of the milk for the community, and they go out with old glass bottles in their old vintage milk truck and still like deliver it to people's front door, which is something I feel like you don't see that much anymore. And it's just such a big part of the community building in the area, and farmers are just like so well respected for the work that they do, rightfully.
That's wonderful. Then that's really the power of community, and it sounds like it is just so strong in the field that you're in, and that's just really wonderful. It certainly doesn't feel good to have isolating work, and to have like people uplifting you throughout that is, I think, so important, to prevent burnout like you were talking about, and that's just so wonderful. When you had your background in outdoor leadership, did you see yourself going the trajectory that you went, or how did you get from outdoor leadership to like organic farms?
Sure. That's a great question. And it, when I look back, it makes a ton of sense. But when I was just starting out, I had no idea this is where I was going to end up. So, I studied outdoor leadership because I should go further back than that. I grew up in a rural area in Virginia, in Southwest Virginia. My father was a college professor at Virginia Tech. And he taught botany, and he's a botanist. And so I grew up, both of my parents really enjoyed spending time outside and really valued I'm the youngest of four, and we're all very close together in age. So there was a lot of like, go play outside. And I was privileged enough to like, we had a big yard with like, there were trees in one area, and there were like lots of great like corners to play in, and I was really encouraged to like go out and get dirty. And I always had a bike, and I spent a lot of time outside, and I loved it. And so I also like walking through the woods with my dad, and identifying plants. And like I said, he's a botanist, and so he's like, he knows all the Latin names of everything and doesn't know any of the common names. And like, I don't know Latin. At this point in my life, I'm like, I would like to take a plant taxonomy class. I would love to learn to learn Latin and how to identify plants in that way. But it did really instill in me this love of nature, and so all of this time spent outdoors and being engaged with the outdoors, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to be able to give that back and share that experience. And so I found a program at Warren Wilson College, which is outside of Asheville, North Carolina, where I could study outdoor leadership. And I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. I want to go, lead wilderness adventure trips. And I did that for a while. I worked for Outward Bound in North Carolina for a while and enjoyed that, but also I was just looking for more. I was looking for something different. I was in my early 20s and wanting to do everything. And I think that's a very natural place to be in your early 20s, is to explore. And, I moved around the country a lot and tried different things, and it was an incredible experience. And all that time I was spending time on farms. Warren Wilson has a strong sustainable ag program. And when I was there, I would volunteer on the farm, both working with the livestock as well as working in the garden there as well with friends who were on those work crews. Warren Wilson is a work college, so all the students have to work to help run the campus. And I worked construction while I was there, and I loved it, which is another skill I use today. And so, I spent my 20s kind of just collecting skills. That's really the way I looked at it. I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing with my life, but I'm learning amazing things. I'm having really great experiences, and there's a lot of privilege in that. I understand that not everyone has that accessibility and ability to move around or choose to take a job that maybe doesn't pay as well or is seasonal. And I'm grateful that I was able to do that. I was, like I said, I moved here and was really looking at expanding on my education experience and remaining outside. I had worked in an elementary school for a period of time when I was in North Carolina, and I loved working with the kids, and that was amazing. But at the same time, being stuck between those four walls in a traditional classroom was just terrible for me. It was terrible, which was great information. And so, I knew that I wanted to continue teaching, but I needed to do it in a different way. And like I said previously, the way I came into farming was sort of unexpected. I thought I was going to go into farm-based education. And I was like, no, my real calling is in the actual production and in the growing, and in the, operating and fixing tractors. And there's a large amount of engagement there. So I have always worked on nonprofit farms, or almost always worked on nonprofit farms, which always had an educational component, a volunteer component. They're all CSA farms. So there was a lot of interaction in teaching. And so not only being a mentor to, say, apprentices or, different farm staff, but also, engagement with the public, doing tours, leading volunteer groups, working with CSA members. So I really got to do everything. I've gotten to do almost everything that I really love and feel passionate about is wrapped up in what I do now. And I still get to do, I've been talking a lot about farm management, all of those experiences and skills apply to what I do today. And I'm very, I'm not running a CSA, but I'm running day to day running a pretty multifaceted business, and I've got a number of staff members who are across the Northeast who I engage with on an almost daily basis. and I'm teaching, and I'm now with COVID, we're having weekly Zoom meetings and talking about, pest identification, and that I'm going out to site and like teaching someone how to do an irrigation repair, and, engaging with the public. We have a project at the Museum of Fine Arts right now in Boston that we're wrapping up installation of this week, and just working right in front of the museum, having folks who are standing in line at the museum coming and engaging and asking about like, oh, how do you grow corn? Or like, tell me about this project. So all of those things, all of those experiences really dovetail nicely into what I do today.
And it sounds like such a cool job because you get to have such a variety of interactions with people and experiences, and that like really appeals to me, because when you're talking about like in your 20s you just wanted to explore, like that's where I'm at. I'm like, I want to try everything. I want to see, what kind of classroom do I like working in, what do I like to teach, and I never want to feel like stuck, or I want to be interacting with the community. That's just so important to me. So it sounds like in your job you get to do exactly that.
Definitely I do. And I'm a total introvert, and I am probably the most extroverted introvert. I mean, I do. I spend a lot of time engaging with folks, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And then I also take quiet time and go like recharge my batteries and like take my dog for a walk and balance it all out. But it is such a gift to be able to do what I do. I'm incredibly grateful for what I do. And I have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, that's so awesome. It's so inspiring to like hear you talk, and it just like makes me so excited for like, my future career and like what I could be doing in 10 years. And hopefully I can be like as happy in my position as it seems like you are.
Yeah, it just like really sounds like you're in the perfect place for you, which is just so awesome. Moving forward, when looking at all of the different projects that Green City Growers has going on, we were really interested in your guys' project at Fenway Park. As I mentioned earlier, I'm from Boston, and I actually heard about the project through my brother, who used to do groundskeeping at the field there, and he had mentioned the project to me. And it sounded like something just like so interesting that we really wanted to get to know more about. So you're in Boston working at Fenway Park, so do you want to just kind of describe what Fenway Park is for those that don't know, and then tell us a little bit more about the project you guys have going on there?
Sure. Well, so Fenway Park is the home of the Boston Red Sox. It's a historical site. I believe the park itself, I'm going to totally break myself into jail here. It was maybe built in 1918, something like that. I have taken the tour. But it's a historic baseball park. It's a beautiful space, just architecturally. It's a pretty classic baseball field. There's the Green Monster, which is well known. It's a big outfield wall, and highly recommend going to a baseball game. They're really fun. I'm not the biggest baseball fan in the world. I do like baseball. I love going to a game. So at Fenway Park, we have a rooftop farm, which is about 2,500 square feet of production. And it is on a rooftop. And it is a mobile farm. And I mean that we grow in small mobile units. They're actually milk crates. They're 1 cubic foot of soil. And so they can be arranged in different formations. They can be moved around, which is important here in New England. We can get a lot of snow. We don't always, but we can get a good amount of snow here in Boston. And the units need to be able to move so that when we get snow drifting on the rooftop in the wintertime, the roof is secure. So we've got these planters that we plant in. We've got an irrigation system that we control so that the plants get enough water. We've got soil media that we grow in up there that supports the plants, which we also utilize organic inputs to give the plants their nutrients. And we grow between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds of produce up there every year. We actually have two areas that we grow on. The main area, all of that produce goes into the food service at the park. So when you eat in the restaurants there, you get to eat produce from the farm. And then we have another deck that's adjacent to the main farm where all of the produce that's grown there is actually grown for donation. So that goes to, we work with an organization called Love and Spoonfuls, which they are like a food aggregator, and they collect produce and food from other organizations and aggregate it to organizations that need it in need. So actually the produce that we grow on that deck goes to a soup kitchen, which is right down the street, and Love and Spoonfuls comes and picks it up and delivers it once a week. And last year, I think we grew something like 2,000 pounds of produce on that donation deck. So it is impactful.
Yeah.
And, you know, when one visits Fenway Park, you can take a tour and you get to tour past the farm, and the number of people, it's amazing standing on the deck there and hearing people say, I had no idea you could grow vegetables like this, or this is such an incredible project utilizing this space, because it was just a blank rooftop with nothing going on. And it can be so productive and it beautifies the space. In non-COVID times, we can have tours of the farm on the roof itself. And then in the donation area, that's accessible during, it's like a party deck. So folks can be more immersed in the growing area. So it's a full sensory experience, and it is impactful. It's a lot of fun. It really changes people's ideas about how to utilize space, and it beautifies the space. So it's multifaceted in its impact, but it's a super fun place to work.
I just did a quick Google search of what it looks like, and I'm just blown away. I can't believe that this is in milk cartons.
Milk crates. So
milk crates. Yeah. The black kind, or I feel like typically they're black, like plastic, or I put them on the back of my bike.
Exactly. They're super useful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yep. And they do have a liner in there. So if folks are like, how do you do that? Milk crates are full of holes. There's a felt liner that fits into each one that holds the block of soil in place.
Wow. This is beautiful.
Awesome.
I want to come visit.
Yeah, come visit. We hopefully the park is opening back up for baseball games. So at some point this summer, we'll hopefully keep your fingers crossed, be able to do tours of the farm again. Yes. So a few years ago, working with Ron Abel, who's the head chef for Aramark that runs the food entities within the park, he pickled a bunch of our fall root vegetables. And there was an event at the park that really highlighted those vegetables. So it was different types of like pickled radish, and I think he made sauerkraut also. And we grow a lot of leafy greens, like kale and chard. Carrots are grown, those obviously aren't a leafy green, but we grow a lot of carrots, as well as cherry tomatoes, all of which, if anybody knows anything about crop planning or has worked in the restaurant industry, like working with farms, what we do is I sit down in the wintertime and I have a conversation with Ron and his team about what they would like to see grown on the farm this year. And, this is New England, so we can't grow oranges, for example, but, we go through the different crops that they're most interested in. And I create a crop plan so that we have vegetables every single week that we'll be harvesting for them. And the woman who manages the site day to day, her name is Lily, as the season progresses, she walks through the farm and makes predictions about what's going to be ready to harvest when and how much. And those, again, we made a crop plan. So those predictions are based on when we thought that we were going to have them anyway, what we planned on, which kind of dials it in. So Ron and his team then know like, oh, in 3 weeks, we're going to be getting, 50 pounds of spinach, so that they can plan and they can tweak their menu to accommodate for what's going to be coming off the farm. But again, all of that is based on conversations we've already had anyway. So they kind of know what to expect. And then as the season goes on and those dates come closer, they're like fine tuning sort of amounts that they're going to be getting.
That's so cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
it's a lot
really
of communication.
Cool. Yeah. And that's neat to hear about the process in the crop planning. And it's just like, I mean, as we talk, it's just so fascinating. I think like the wide variety of people you interact with, like you're talking to like the public, you're talking to chefs, like you're talking to other people who do similar work to you to like plan this. And I don't know if there's any other field really that like just communicates with so many different people, and that's really cool to me.
Yeah, it's very fun. I've gotten to meet so many different types of people, different backgrounds, famous people, fascinating people who are, academics, people who are fascinating just in who they are and like how they engage with their food, and who are passionate, and people who are very curious, and tiny kids all the way up to elders. And it's really magnificent, and especially in this time of COVID when like interactions have been so limited, and learning new ways of interacting like via Zoom, or really, I know I've become much more thoughtful about how I engage with people, but also like when I'm engaging with people, that consciousness of like, human, I'm interacting with you, hello person. And so that's really, I don't know, over this year, that's become much more, I've just gotten a deeper consciousness around that, and a lot of gratitude around having a role in the world where I do interact with others, and I do get to engage in this really cool, like really rich community.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And to me, kind of like an unexpected side of your job. I am really curious about like the role that mentors have played for you, speaking about people and connections. So could you speak a little bit about like just throughout your career, the role that mentors have played for you?
Sure. That's a great question that I really appreciate. And I've been really fortunate to have a number of just very impactful people in my life. From my youth, having a friend of my father's who had been a graduate student of his, who really took me under his wing. And he started an outdoor education program when I was a teenager and took me in and was like, you're going to be a teacher. And that really, I think that experience got me on the road to where I am today. And, in farming, gosh, I've just had so many. My friend Amanda Cather is one who always comes to mind, she's a farmer down in Maryland now, running her own operation. And she really codified for me a lot of ideas that had kind of been floating around, believed in me and my ability to run a farming operation. She hired me as an assistant, or she hired me as an assistant grower on a farm. And then I moved into the assistant manager position, and she left to go to Maryland to start her own position. She encouraged me to take on the role of manager of that farm. And that changed my life. It totally changed my life. She changed my life. She believed in me very deeply and challenged me. I think that's one thing that I'm very grateful for, is I have had strong people in my life who haven't been afraid to challenge me. That's a scary thing. It's not comfortable to be challenged. Yeah. And I, physically, I like a challenge. I think I've alluded to that but the emotional challenge I wasn't necessarily ready for. And I've had people help me learn how to take that on and to push me in that realm. And another manager I've had, Melanie Hardy, who I started with when I first started farming. It's another queer farmer in the area, and she really pushed me. And again, I'm super grateful for that. And she believed in me. She put tools in my hand and was like, "Go fix that tractor, figure it out." And I'm very grateful for that. I try to be that sort of mentor today. Like, I try and carry on those principles. And like I said before, like in the role that I'm in now, like I work with a number of different staff members and people who are new to production growing and to farming. And I really enjoy introducing people to the work and to teaching them and to, helping them along and challenging them. And it's an art. Like being a teacher, being a mentor, and also being a mentee, there's an art to it, and it's a learning process. I don't always get it right, and that's okay. I think that's another part of it, is just like making sure that I'm still learning, and that I have so much I can learn from others. Be they somebody who's been in this type of industry for decades, or somebody who's new to it.
Right.
Approaching all of those relationships with curiosity and an open mind and an open heart. And
yeah, it also sounds like a lot of like honesty and transparency too. And I think like when I think back to like the mentors that I have or teachers that have been like really impactful for me, it's not the people who've like pretended that they know everything. It's like, I'm also learning about that. Like, that's a great question. Like, let's look in that together. And I sometimes forget that. It's like, as someone who's young, who has mentors, I like look up to them so much, but also just like expect, almost they do everything so flawlessly, in my eyes. And so like as like I start to get students, I'm like, okay, you know what, like my mentors probably like aren't perfect as much as I want to think that they are, and I don't have to be perfect either, because sometimes it can put a lot of pressure. At least I felt that, like a lot of pressure, to be a certain way, or to, I don't know, be the perfect person that they expect. So yeah, I think transparency is really important, and you brought that up too.
Yeah, I feel like it's really important to have a mentor that obviously can teach you stuff, but also is like willing to grow with you and learn something from one another, is something that you don't really find that often, because a lot of mentors aren't willing to kind of give up that control. But if you find it, it's such a special thing for sure.
Do you have any sort of like advice that you would give yourself in high school, or perhaps like in your higher education, considering where you are now?
I think, I'm very fortunate in that where I am now, even though I didn't imagine the details, like I like high school me would be like, wow, that's super cool. Like that person's super cool. Which is, I don't know, I say it out loud and it sounds kind of funny, but I've worked really hard, and I've like been open to experiences. I've definitely had some hard knocks and like fallen down hard, but gotten back up from those things. And I think one thing is that I would say to my high school self is don't be afraid to ask for help. I felt like in my youth and my young adulthood, like I had something to prove that I could do it on my own, and that I didn't need other people's help in a lot of ways. And I think it would have been a lot easier had I been a bit more open to asking for help. That it's not, it's not a sign of inability or weakness. I think it's actually a strength to be curious and humble. I try to do that today. I was talking earlier about like the community we have here in Eastern Massachusetts, and like I've been doing this for a while now, and like I ask for help. And, I reach out and, another mentor I have who I didn't mention earlier is Chris Growlert, who's the president of Green City Growers. And like, I ask him for help and I am, stronger because of it. And, I work to build relationships so that I can do that. And also I really try to be open to others so that they feel like they can come to me. If I don't know the answer to something, that's totally fine. Like you were saying, like we'll figure it out together. And I get to learn something new, which I absolutely love. And I think is like, that's a strength to continue learning. And, it's so funny. People sometimes ask me questions and like, I don't realize what I know until somebody asks the question. And then I'm like, oh, I know so much about that topic. Or they ask the question and I'm like, I don't know. Let's call somebody else who I know is an expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true. Thank you so much for sharing that. It has been just like an absolute joy talking to you today, and I'm really excited to see where my career takes me. So thanks so much for sharing so much about your background.
Absolutely. It's been a total pleasure. I'm so glad that you all reached out. This is an amazing industry. There's a lot to learn. It's a growing industry. And I just really encourage folks, if you have any inkling of interest, to explore it. There's a place for everyone here. So please come join us.
I love that sentiment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking to us. It's just been so amazing to hear about what you're doing and kind of what's going on up there. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
The Garden Gate was created by Kira Burba and Caroline McDonald as part of the Learning by Leading initiative with the Smithsonian Gardens. This team includes Emily Warshaw as the Education Specialist, Yenna Yu as the Marketing Specialist, Nicolette Kelly as the Recording Assistant, and Megan Hasty as the Audio Engineer. The music is by Royalty Free Music on SoundCloud. Special thanks to Cynthia Brown and Paula Healy. Learn more by visiting gardens.si.edu. Thanks for listening.